Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's session, DevSecOps, Bridging the Gap Between Development, Security, and Operations. I am Renal Vicaria, and I'll be your host for the day. Before we get started, we would like to go over a few house rules. For our attendees, the session will be in listen-only mode and will last for an hour, out of which the last 15 minutes will be dedicated to Q&A. If you have any questions during the webinar, to organizer or a speaker, use the Q&A window. Also, if you face any audio-video challenges, please check your internet connection or you may log out and log in again. Now about a speaker. Manuel Schuller is a senior DevOps evangelist with 25 plus years of international experience in both dev and ops solutions. He is a DevOps Institute Ambassador, CD Foundation Community Builder, public speaker in events like DevOps World, DevOps Enterprise Summit, Bright Talks, and Tech Strong's program and broadcast. Also, business and technical challenges solver. Loving the terms DevOpsifier and DevOpsologist, Manuel has extensive knowledge of both technologies and market. He helps people practice DevOps principle in real-world organization and achieve result in big DevOps transition project. So, without any further delay, I would now hand over the session to our speaker.
Thank you very much, Rinal. Thank you for the introduction. We will go today through that marvelous topic of DevSecOps, and the title here was chosen on purpose: Bridging the Gap, Development, Security, and Operation. We will go into details what it means, bridging the gap. But it means that there is a gap most of the time. So that gap has to be bridged on the cultural point of view and on the tools and processes also a point of view. We will focus maybe a little bit more on the cultural aspect today, although we will talk about all the others. So with no delay, a little introduction from my side. You've heard the introduction from Rinal. I've worked for several companies, as she said, dev companies, ops companies, mainly vendors, also GSIs. I'm now DevOps Institute and now PeopleCert Ambassador and CD Foundation Ambassador. We will talk about the CD Foundation because we will talk about one of their projects in the context of DevSecOps. I would like to go into a little bit of history today. History repeating because history is something that we like to study and that very often repeats. If we look at the tech stacks, both for application and infrastructure over the last roughly 25 years, we have a lot of things from monolithic to, long story short, microservices and cloud today, more container centric, while we were more big application on mainframe, a little bit more modular on open systems. If we want to reassume that in two photos, I like those ones. Okay, we switch from monolithic application with few releases, with big bang releases, to today very modular applications, very easy to modify, to make evolve, but many releases. And many releases means I need to have the control on those releases. Where I had few releases a long time ago, it was quite easy. Today, it's more tricky, and I need to have some working processes for these many releases. If we go a little bit more in details, the software over the past 25 years, we have what we used to call waves. Okay, so the waves the first one based on languages. As you see, by the way, it's a little bit more than 25 years here. Based on languages, then we got organized through methods where we had some organization tools starting to pop up to help construct software systems and monitor them easier. After that, we had the wave of CMM, ITIL, Agile, things that are more current, I would say, which was based on process and product. The software was not anymore something sent to be operated, but a software product which was more packaged and prepared. And now we are on the DevOps wave. What will come after is preparing right now, but here most of the companies that I know or I knew over the past years are implementing DevOps processes, pipelines, CI, CD, release automation on the complete software delivery supply chain. What is the key here? The key is the deployment frequency. The deploy frequency about 8-9 years ago grew because it was the transition to digital transformation, to microservices, to a combination of small pieces of software that I could deploy and release autonomously, so that my deploy frequency grew a lot, and I have to control it. If I want to control it, I have to know what happened during these waves. So a small description. The first wave was some kind of job-based. I had a lot of scripting. The scripting is difficult to scale. The scripting is very often related to some people. When they leave the company, it's harder to maintain. It's not simple. So transition to the second wave was I take the script and I wrap them into a more higher level object, which is a pipeline. The pipeline will help me trigger the script automatically and manage the different transitions. So in terms of best practices, wrap the script into a pipeline. Even if I do not really know, I'm not sure what the script does or how it works, at least it is triggered as it is. And I can add some basic security, ACLs, to control who is allowed to run those scripts. The second transition from my pipeline-based to a more prescriptive vision, it's basically adding the different additional activities that I can control, like QA, like testing in general, like security, and this is where our topic today comes into the picture. Moving from stages and scripting environment to adding all the activities I need to know along the life cycle, including the security. So in terms of best practices, I have a better control on my environment. I know what is inside the inventory. I can repeat the same activities. I can have templates for the configurations. I can also add the change management, because I will control not only the different stages of my pipeline, but the why I am triggering that pipeline and why I will deliver a new version of my software. So change management, but also requirement management, because if I know why I will deliver a new version, the new version answers to some requirements. So I can add a lot of controls. So connect the test result to the requirement, push some features in production, not necessarily some executables or some programs. So a higher level in the vision of my software supply chain. Obviously, I can also add some more security, and this is where we are today. Code scans, security verifications, and approvals. These are all part of what we call in general security of my supply chain. The security of the supply chain, if I had to define it, would be quite simple. I have to make sure that when something goes into the production, I have the control of what it is, and I can prove that it has gone through my security gates so that it answers to my security requirements. It is compliant with my security requirements. Last but not least, transition prescriptive to configurable. A real model-based vision of my software delivery supply chain, which means it's coming, yeah, a proper DevOps platform where I can have an additional audit trail. Since I did some activities, I can prove them and I can get the result and compare them to some baselines. I can have the approval process. I can have security and regulation compliance. I can, because I have the data, have any reporting dashboard to help me. And the self-service, since I want to have also the ease of use of that kind of platform, I make sure that the users can onboard the application easily through self-service that ensures the consistency of the configuration and of the processes, whatever, and we will see that in a few minutes, but whatever the technology I'm managing, because what I'm describing here is not applicable only to current modern technology, microservices, cloud. It also has to be applicable to more legacy technologies, because big companies are using a wide range of technologies in the software world. Okay, so long story short, first, second, third, and fourth generations, scripts, stages in the pipeline, additional activities, proper DevOps platform. This is what I wanted to start with in terms of history. The challenges in the software are many. What we will focus on today, I listed some of them, but what we will focus on today, because this is our topic, is security. And security and compliance, because if we want to assess security, we have to prove the compliance to the security rules. And very often in big companies, some of you work in big companies, some of you in smaller companies, but companies today are quite often acquiring each other. And at the end of the day, we end up with several business units or several branches of a company that use their own release mechanism and release team, stack of hardware, whatever it means, cloud or data centers, software licenses, processes. So it's quite difficult to have a common process that applies to all the organizational structures. On top of that, it's some kind of joke, but this drawing here on the bottom right, development, operation, wall of confusion, I think I used it for the first time something like 30 years ago, because it was the beginning, even before DevOps was called DevOps. It was bringing together development and operation to pursue the same goal. And it was the way to represent it. And today, some of the organizations still need to see that drawing to realize that DevOps means working together. Putting the security in between is DevSecOps. So the challenges are many. I will not go through reading all that slide, but you will get access to the presentation. There is a lot of things: spendings, lack of visibility, lack of morale, quality, loss of business. It all translates, and this is the purpose of the slide, in money. Okay, we are spending too much, we are losing money, we're spending time to do things that we should not, that should be automated. So it all translates into FTE money or loss of business. Basically, we are losing money. We want to bridge the gap. Okay, why do we want to bridge the gap? Because we want better compliance audit, quality, morale. We want to avoid losing the long list of things we had on the previous slide. And we want to do that through with flexibility. We want to have a better visibility and control, and we want our solution to scale and to be reliable. It's quite simple, it looks straightforward, but most of the time it's worth repeating things. What impact can we expect? More benefits, less spending, better use of the time of the people, risk, better approach to the risk mitigation, and the return on investment. Such solution usually provides a payback, a return on investment within the first year. This is an example here, a real life example where the return on investment was in 5 months, which is at the scale of an implementation project or digital transformation project moving to the cloud. It's nearly nothing. It's very fast in terms of return on investment. So let's go to the how. How can we bridge the gap? Development, security, operations. I think we have, and I wanted to stop on these keywords. Okay, these keywords are the key to bridge the gap. Shift left. Shift left means do more activities early in the development cycle so that we can correct anything sooner rather than later. But in terms, when we talk about shifting left, security is not necessarily a skill that is in the developers' shoulders. We don't want to ask the developers to be also security specialists. They are developers. They create things. Okay, so it has to be a developer's advantage. Security has to be something that developers will like consuming, will like applying, because it's easy. And how can it be easy? It can be easy through automation. Automation, because when I automate things, I'm sure of the result, and I'm sure it is applied anywhere I need it. The third keyword, the single source of truth, is also very important, because I want to have information, results, security rules, easy to store and easy to check. If I want to compare a result to a rule in an engine, it has to be in one place only. So the single source of truth is also a keyword that we've been using for developing those principles. So in terms of principles, usually software supply chain is made of a lot of stages. I do a lot of activities, but I can group these stages roughly in 3 main steps. What happens in the uncontrolled stage, where I will do the testing, where I'll be developing, before I reach the question, am I ready to put my software in production? Then the pre-production, where I will decide with real data most of the time. And the third one, which is the production, where I will send my application if it has gone through my security checks. So I'm developing on the left-hand side and I'm delivering on the right-hand side. How usually does it work? If I want to make sure that my security is part of my process. Usually I have a pipeline that is triggered. It can be with GitOps. I have a couple of slides on that afterwards. With some parameters. Remember, I was saying my supply chain, my software delivery supply chain has to be the same, whatever technology, whatever I want to deliver. So parameters will tell me I have an application that is based on Java. I have to do SAST, I have to do DAST. And basically that's it for what I can think about. I have a microservice running in a container, then I have to do the container scan also, and so on. So I have some parameters that tell me what do I have to comply to be compliant. And during these uncontrolled stages, I will do my scans, I will do my checks. And by the way, it's parentheses, but we are focusing on security here. It could be on other domains, architecture, documentation, skills of the developers, whatever. I know some companies that have a lot of domains on top of the security to be compliant to. And I will produce some results that I will store in my single source of truth. Single source of truth that I will use through a policy engine to make sure that I will comply to the rules, security rules that I was mentioning, to make sure that at the moment of the validation, you remember, between pre-production and production, I will make the decision, can I send that application to production? Yes, if it does comply to the rules that are in my policy engine, to my policies in terms of security. I just added here SBOM. I have also a couple of slides at the very end on the SBOM, software bill of material, because it's important also to characterize the software, and it's related to the security. At the end, I send my application to production, and I can do, because I have my single source of truth, I know why I made that decision, so I can easily audit and produce audit reports for my application being sent to production. Okay, so some examples, because it's important to see things. Okay, processes, a generic security pipeline. What can it look like? It answers to the following. I want to do CI/CD. I want to build a software bill of material. Software bill of material that is becoming, in the US and in Europe, a mandatory aspect of software delivery. But it's not, as I said when I was talking about shifting left, it's not the project or the application of the business focus. It's not my skills to define the security. I want a built-in process that does it for me. I want the specialists to define what security can mean. In development, in integration, in delivery, in pre-production, and in production. Remember the GitOps principles, and this is with those principles that I will want to trigger my pipeline. And you remember also my introduction on the history. Look at what you see on the GitOps website. GitOps is roughly the same. We have gone through different waves for software delivery. GitOps, if you look at some schemas and description of GitOps, I found things, and I based part of my presentation here on what GitOps is also saying. Source of truth and trigger automatically triggers a pipeline. So that pipeline, it's a screenshot of one of the tools I'm using to have a representation of the Kanban view of my pipeline. It can look like this. I will go through different checks, SAST, DAST, container scan, different tools, NetSparker, Checkmark, SonarQube. These are only examples, okay? But what is interesting is I have, according to the stage I am in the application of my security, I have the different checks that are applied. And what I can do is to move from one stage to another, and this is where I have the value added. One stage to another, I will condition, you see here the exit gate rule. I want my SAST result to be within a threshold. So I anticipate my policy engine to say I can move forward in my process if I know I will be compliant to the threshold of my static scan in that case. We will retrieve that notion in 3 or 4 slides. Just remember these exit gates in my security pipeline. Pre-production stage is the same. I condition so I can move automatically to production if it's allowed in my corporate policies. I can push that if I have my pre-production rules that are also verified. Now, I've done things for the security, but for my application, this is where it changes. You remember my parameters, what shall I apply? Because it's the same definition. I still want to do CI/CD, but I will use the security checks and I will apply the things that I need for my application. What do I need for my application? SIT, UAT, QA, things that are related to my application. But I will have to synchronize this. Synchronize what happens in terms of security with what happens to my own application. And to synchronize that, one of the best way or the most simple way that already exists and that exists in the context of the continuous delivery foundation I was talking about at the very beginning is a mechanism called CD events. So if you want to go deeper into CD events, I just put the definition here of CD events. You find some schema also on the CD event website. It's quite straightforward. I like this one. You have a broker. A lot of things happen to your application on the top, and through the broker, you can use that information to view, to store, single source of truth, to notify, to generate metrics or audit reports, and to synchronize everything that will happen. So an example of an application release pipeline, you see, I'm not doing security stuff here. I'm doing my own development test, DIT or SIT or UAT test. I'm doing things that are related to my own applications. Security will apply and will be synchronized along the life cycle. But at the development stage, for example, when in my application pipeline, if I want to know how to move on after the development, look at the exit gate. I have the exact same rules here in the exit gate because I got the information through CD events of my security scans, of my security pipeline, and I can use them since it's a single source of truth. I can use them with confidence and condition the progression in my application pipeline to the results of my security pipeline. So you see roughly the mechanism, some security checks that I will apply along the life cycle, the pipeline, some additional checks that are related to my application, where I can use the result of my security, and at the end of the day, when it comes to handing off to production, make a decision on the complete set of information that, by the way, I can gather in a software bill of material. This is another topic, and it can be a complete session on the bill of material, but just in the last 2 minutes, bill of material in 2021, the US White House has made an executive order, and last year the European responded with the European Cyber Resilience Act that defines that we need to have a software bill of material for every software that is on the market. The typical use cases, so automation, compliance, security, which is the one we're interested in for assessment, for audit, for DevSecOps automation, and for understanding the complexity of the applications. So this is, I think, a good summary of the bill of material. It used to be the description of how the software was built, and it's now the description of how the software is released, and it contains all the results, especially of the security checks at a certain moment, because a security check that I'm doing today and the same one that I'm doing tomorrow can bring some results that are different, because in the meantime, tonight, we will discover another vulnerability, just like it happened for Log4j, for example, where my scan against the known vulnerabilities database will give some different results. So it's very important to understand that bill of material, software bill of material, is a way to characterize, to make the characteristics of the way software is released, delivered, and it will give you the vision of all the history of your software, including the security. Just the last screenshot, an example of before entering into production. I verify that I have my bill of material, that bill of material is immutable, that I have my single source of truth, CMDB, and then, knowing all that, I can go into production with all the security clearance that I'm expecting for my own application, whatever, I repeat, the technology. So I went a little bit over time, but I thank you very much for attending the webinar today. Rinal, I give you back the line. Are there some questions from the audience here?
Thank you so much, Manuel, for delivering such an insightful and informative session. We found the webinar very engaging and hope it was valuable for you as well. Before we begin with the Q&A, I would like to inform all the attendees that this session is in sync with EC Council Certified DevSecOps Engineer ECDE program. Over 850,000 DevSecOps engineers positions are listed on LinkedIn as of June 2022. The average salary of a DevSecOps engineer in the United States is 1,17,922 USD. Even entry-level positions pay around 1,08,000 USD. And workers with over 15 years of experience make more than 1,36,000 USD. If you are interested in learning more, please participate in the poll being conducted now. Let us know your preferred mode of training and we will reach out to you. So, Manuel, should we proceed with the question and answer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So, our first question is, how do I convince non-technical decision makers, example CEO and CFO, of the values of DevSecOps and how to convince them to invest in DevSecOps tools and processes?
Interesting question. Because usually non-technical, what you call non-technical decision makers, so CFO, CEO, that's quite obvious, but CFO, you're absolutely right. I mean, the person who asked the question mentioned CFO because financial aspect is very important. Okay, you remember, I would like you to remember two of the slides. The first one is the return on investment. The return on investment of such solution, if you work well and transparently in an organization for calculating the return on investment, usually it's less than 1 year. Okay, so investing in a tool that will give you a lot of benefits within a couple of years, and you know that the return on investment is less than 1 year, the CFO can start listening to you. The second thing is the slide just before, or two slides before, I said this is a slide that I will not read because it's a boring slide. This is the list of all the things that you lose in terms of money, or you have unnecessary spendings, or you have people leaving the company, or you lose some businesses. This is also things to mention to typically a CFO. This is where we are today. Okay, we are spending too much money in repetitive tasks. We need automation. We are losing some business because we had some security problems. So depending on the vertical, okay, people have. I mean, I don't imagine a CFO of a financial services company not listening to the security bells. We have to have secure software. Okay, today everything runs on software. So if I can just mention a quick story. I was participating in a panel discussion, and a guy said, software is everywhere. How can I know that? It's quite simple. This morning I was entering my car, which is software driven. Even if I don't own a Tesla, there is a lot of software in any car. Then I take my mobile phone, so I connect to a telecom provider, so telecom, to check my bank account, banking, financial services. to play a game online, gaming industry, and to communicate with my supermarket, because I need to go and buy some stuff for my dinner tonight. So I have all the verticals here that are in nearly one sentence, where I need some security, because when I do all that, I want to trust the communication, I want to trust my car, I want to trust my bank, I want to trust my supermarket, I want to trust all the services I'm using, hence the security. So it was a quite long answer, but I hope it really answers the question, especially in front of the CFO.
Thank you for answering that, Manuel. Next question is, how does implementing DevSecOps impact the traditional software development cycle?
It depends on what you mean by traditional software development cycle, but so I try to be as generic as possible. Implementing DevSecOps, from my point of view today, it's roughly the same thing than saying 10 years ago, implementing DevOps. What I mean is that security is part of DevOps. It's called DevSecOps because we want to insist on the security, but it's built-in DevOps. Okay, having development and operations pursuing the same goal means introducing security, because it's at the heart of my activities. As I said before, whatever the vertical, okay, banking, gaming, retail, automotive, whatever, I need some security, and introducing DevOps on top of a traditional software development lifecycle sorry, means that you have to impact the culture. So I'm a strong believer that DevOps is before all a cultural aspect. Processes, tools is something that you can find anywhere on the web. You can find a lot of very valid vendors, a lot of very valid open source tools, and implement the tooling for your DevOps mechanism. You can find examples of processes anywhere. What is important is to work on the human aspect, the culture aspect, the organization aspect. You remember one of the slides, organizational structure. It is very important that the people of the organization are convinced that DevSecOps will bring the benefits that we can read anywhere. And this is the main impact on the traditional software development lifecycle, the cultural impact.
Thank you, Manuel, for answering that. Next question to you is, what are some best practices for integrating security into every stage of the development pipeline in DevSecOps?
And so best practices, I think that, I don't know if it's a best practice, but at least a generic principle, which is that I mentioned that when I talked about shift left, I believe. Shift left means I will integrate security into every stage, but as left as possible within the development. And if I do that, I want the introduction, the integration of the security to be as easy as possible. If I ask the development teams to become security specialists, and if I tell them that they will not be able to bring an application unless they have passed all the security gates, security rules, it will not work because it's a constraint. Okay. If I propose them, on another hand, and I think it's here is the best practice or the principle. If I propose them some security checks that are defined by security specialists, so they know that what they are talking about, to discuss with the development team, so they can share the information, and and also to give them the tools, something that they are able to consume rather than implementing on their side. Okay, I hope that the difference is clear. So something they have to consume, something ready to consume, like the security pipeline that I have shown as an example. The security pipeline is, in that case, ready to consume. I can configure it to use this or that aspect of security according to the technology of my application. And in that case, development, this is also the return of experience. Development teams are quite happy to apply security because they are more confident in their software. They don't have to make additional effort because it's there to consume, and they can become more skilled because they are applying these security checks, and they can be interested in that. They can go and dig into what these checks do and become more competent in applying the security. So it was once more a little bit long answer, but this is, I think, what is important from my point of view. So
okay, so we'll take last two questions. What was the biggest challenges you have faced when deploying his strategy from day one? It means deploying your strategy from day one in terms of dollar, time, personal, asking for expectation management on moving forward in doing something like this. This is from attendee.
okay, the biggest challenge was probably, and it's related to one of my answers before on the culture. The biggest challenge was probably the adoption of the solution, because when you bring in a solution which is what you believe is the one of the best solution, you've been working a lot with management, with people defining security. You strongly believe that what you bring will have a lot of benefits, and then you have the impacted people that are in charge of using that solution, that just tell you, oh, I'm doing my business as usual. I don't want to be bothered. I don't have time to adopt something else. Okay. And although you may object that this is the management's role to make sure that the solution will be adopted because it's a management decision, sometimes it's slightly more tricky because companies are very big. Some companies are very big. They have some, I would say, influences, political influences that are quite different. People in big organizations are moving every 2-3 years. They are moving business unit or moving role, and it's not straightforward to find the right management chain that will help you on the adoption. So yeah, probably the biggest challenge that I have faced, if I do the sum of different projects, is the adoption. Thinking in such project to involve the impacted teams, so development, operations, and security. There are all the three teams, okay? And this is the teams mentioned in the title of that webinar. Development, operations, security, involve them in the definition of what we want to do, the DevSecOps project, and in the adoption, both by development, by operations, and triggered by security. So I hope that that one is clear. Summary in one word: adoption.
Thank you, Manuel, for answering that. Our last question is, what are the requirements to work as DevSecOps?
Oh, so I can try to answer this one, but you will also find, you remember the small video that you saw at the beginning of the webinar. You will find a lot of answers by EC Council to know what are the requirements. I would say so. Experience in software development, software operations, knowing what it is. Okay. Experience in DevOps, obviously. What is a DevOps principle? You probably must have read a couple of books. One of them is the Phoenix Project, which is one of the Bible of DevOps, to know what DevOps means and what the benefits of DevOps are, and to have serious notions of security. And when I mean security, I mean two things: the security of the software and the security of the supply chain of the software, which are two slightly different things. Security of the software is the scans, the SAS, the DAS, the container scan, the IaaS, the MAS, all the security checks that you can do. And the second one, security of your supply chain, is how confident you are, and we've been focusing a lot on that today, how confident you are that the software is running in production is compliant to your security standards. There is nothing that has been unseen in terms of security in your supply chain, software supply chain. So, and I repeat, you will find probably, Rinal, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of resources also in EC Council for the jobs of DevSecOps.
Thank you again to our wonderful speaker, Manuel, for answering all those questions and for the great presentation and the knowledge shared with our global audience. It was a pleasure to have you with us, and we are looking to more and more sessions with you, Manuel. Before we conclude the webinar, would you like to give a small message to our audience?
Well, a big thank you to you, EC Council people, and to the audience. Thank you for connecting today. DevOps and DevSecOps are still a very trending topic. We are talking a lot about artificial intelligence. This is the very beginning, but a lot of companies are still implementing DevOps and DevSecOps. So be confident that a lot of jobs and a lot of topics today in big companies are around security and around DevOps implementation, real life implementation. Thank you very much to everyone.
Thank you so much, Manuel.